Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the shop. Let me turn this off. This is my air cleaner, my Win 3-speed air filter to try to minimize the amount of cancerous dust I suck into my lungs. We do not want to do that, although I have breathed in quite a bit of it. They do say that it is a carcinogen, and of course they say not to breathe it in. Not to mention what it does to your nose and your allergies and everything that goes along with it. So be sure to be safe around the dust, okay? But anyway, what I wanted to say was, welcome back to the shop. Before I got into the big teaching moment, right? You don't know better than to not breathe in dust, right? Okay. So today what I need to do is I need to prepare the headstock area here for the head plate. And our client, our friend, Jim Bob Severts, the man who owns this guitar we're building, would like to have a matching head plate on his guitar. I usually do ebony on the head plates, but what we're going to do is, this is some of the leftover wood from the body cuts. I'm going to go over to the bandsaw and I'm going to resaw that back off of there and run it through the sander. I still got about 1/4 of an inch here. Resaw this off, run it through the sander to about 0.100, you know, slightly under 1/8 of an inch. Quite a bit under, 25 thousandths under, but slightly under, and we're going to glue that onto the head plate before we cut the shape, right? And before we do all the machining for the holes in the truss rod port and all that stuff. So, but before we do that, I have to get the thickness of the headstock precise. And when I mill it a little thick. It's a little bit too thick this way. And I do that so that I can work back down to the proper dimension. And if you'll see, let me get around there where you can see it. I have a line right there. That is where I want to stop my thickness, my reduction. And because that is where the fretboard and the nut stop. Like this. Get around there again. Right? So that's my line right there on the other side of the nut. And I'm only, it's really going to be really difficult to see it. But I'm slightly above that line, you see? Which means that I need to reduce this thickness right here by just enough to bring that angle down to where it's flush with that line there. There's a couple of different ways you could do that, obviously, just like everything else. Just like everything else, there's a couple of different ways to do it. I don't want to run it across the joiner and face it off because there's a good chance that it'll snipe at the end of the cut. The joiner is good for doing some rough work, but you don't want to get real precise with it. So the easiest way for me to do this is just use a good sharp hand plane. And I have one that I bought from Bridge City Tools that's perfect for doing this. And on this mahogany, if you go with the grain, you're going to tear out because it has cross-grain structure. So the easiest way for me to do this, I have found, is to use this little plane with a super sharp blade in it. This is made by Bridge City. Very nice little plane. And go across the grain, cutting very lightly, like this. I'm just taking little cuts, like that. You can hardly see what I'm cutting. And I go this way. I don't want to go all the way across and tear out across the grain. So I go this way, and then I turn around and I take it back the other way. Like this. Making sure that I come all the way out to the outside before I start the cut. And going a little over halfway across each pass. And I'm just taking off a little bit. See that? And you notice it's not tearing out because I'm going across the grain and shearing it off. And carving, wood carving, it's usually better to go across the grain. Problem with going with the grain is you're going to dig under somewhere and it's going to try to pull a chunk out. You don't want that to happen. You can even go at a little bit of an angle like this. And come back across here. Do that again. Okay, I'm getting good and close now. Then I come back with about 80 grit, 100 grit on a nice heavy duty block like this. And just carefully, actually better if I go this way, it doesn't rock so much. And you will see when I show you this in a minute, I'm almost exactly on that line now. It doesn't take much to reduce. It doesn't take much thickness reduction to get right down precisely on that line. And that's what we want, because that's where we're going to stop our head plate, right there. And then the nut will rest right up against the back of the head plate, and that's perfect. In between the head plate and the fingerboard, or fretboard, I call it. Some people call it fingerboard. I think the proper word is fingerboard. I've always called it a fretboard because that's where the frets are. When it's on a board, it seems like the right thing to say. And I just go across here like this, a little bit of an angle, making sure that I stay flat. This helps you stay flat, and go back this way. A little tiny bit more. Looking good. Okay, let me show you what that looks like now. Ooh, that mahogany dust is mean. Okay, you see where my line is now? Right there. That's the line. Okay, so we worked right down perfect to that line. I don't need to be any more precise than that. That's very, very good. And that's the right thickness that we want. We'll just double check to make sure this thickness is what I was shooting for. And that's it. 0.8 of an inch over a half. And that's perfect. Doesn't need to be any better than that. Okay? Because I'm still going to sand this back here, and that's going to take a little bit more off too, but the back sanding isn't going to affect what happens here. That angle and that distance right there is what we really need to get. So there we're good. That's good to go. Don't ask me why I'm slapping it. I think why do I do that? I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to hit this just a couple more times with the sander. Then we're going to go over to the bandsaw, resaw if my blade is sharp enough. I may need to sharpen, put a new blade on. And I won't bore you with that. I'll do that off camera. Then we're going to take that over there and see if we can get that done and see if we can get this glued on. And that'll be a good day and a somewhat short video. Hopefully, if I edit it correctly. So a couple of videos coming up are going to be pretty long. And that is perfectly stopped at that line. That's exactly where I want to be. So let's move on to the next thing. Before I get over there to the bandsaw, just let me say thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, please think about subscribing and hit that like button and comment down below. We love to talk to you about guitars, okay? So let's move on to the next thing. Let's get that piece of wood off of there. We can glue it on this head plate. All right, be right back. Over to the bandsaw, I want to determine which one of these pieces would best match the, the overall vibe of the guitar. And I'm thinking that since, well, obviously it can't go up through the middle, but I believe that more of this area here would be better. Let's see, I have a head plate template right here, and So that's not going to work anyway, even if I wanted to use this piece. I mean, I could barely squeeze it out of there. So we're coming over here somewhere. And what I'm going to do is take that screw out, because we definitely do not want to run into it. Let me get that screw out of there. Put that there. Some of the bits that I use the most, man, I just leave them up on a shelf. Right by the drill bits. Right by the drill, I should say, and that makes it easy to find them when you need them. All right, we got that screw out of there, and I just keep these little screws right there. That way, they're right there when I need them, right? Okay, so this area here is where we're going to get our head plate from. And that looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut most of that off. That way I don't need to worry about trying to work all of that off of there. I only need to get off what I need. I'm only going to worry about what I need. And there's a few little knots in here. Let me see if I can get a really good clean spot. Or if I can hide some of the knots. Which that would work pretty good, but it's hanging over. You'd like to be able to try to get a really good clean piece. I mean, they're just little tiny knots, but really don't want them in there. But there's really no escaping them. So we're going to have a couple little tiny knots in the head plate, but I think that'll be okay. We'll get the overall vibe we're going for here. And actually, it looks like a tuner will cover up one of those knots anyways, which is great. And if I get lucky and I do this correctly, it looks like I can get the other knot here in the truss rod port. So that would be good. So I'm just going to whack that off right there, right across there. And I like that. Give myself a little extra right there. We'll go over to the bandsaw, we'll cut that off, and then we'll try and resaw that off of there. And then all we got to do is send it through the sander, and we want it to be, like I say, about 100 thou. 0.100. This one's 0.90, that's good too. Of course, I already have one made, but it's not the same wood. It's from a different guitar, and we'll just save this one to use on an inline 6 neck somewhere probably. So let's go over to the bandsaw, get this cut off. If the bandsaw will cooperate, I think the blade is very dull, but we're going to try to make it work so I don't have to change the blade in this video. All right, so let's go get that done, man. I'll be right back. Right. It's good. Now we just got to poke this through the sander a couple hundred times because I know I'm not going to get this through the planer without it exploding. So we got a good rough good rough belt on the sander. So let's go over there and poke it through there a couple hundred times. Not that many, but you know. It'll take a while because this is kind of thick. And let's get that done. Here we go. Okay, get that there. $95. It's perfect. Perfect. Okay. That's good. Got that milled up. Didn't take very long at all. Now we need to cut the angle on one end, square, so that I can butt it up against the nut. What I'll do is I got the pins in the back of the fretboard. I got the fretboard in place. The fretboard won't move. I got the nut. I'll put the nut there. I'll cut this angle right here. That angle, which is about 7 degrees, I think. What I did one day was I just marked it on my bench right here. So all I have to do is take my bevel gauge, walk over here like this, and set it to that line right there. That's my angle. Right there, I'll put that angle on one end, a square cut across. I will use this, butt that up to it like that, glue that whole thing in place, come back, cut the excess off with a bandsaw, and then we'll do this cut right there to make that shape. And we'll have a maple head plate that perfectly matches the body of the guitar. So let's get that cut. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to put a jointed edge here so that I can make a square cut across. We got to do that. And I think what I want to do is I want to joint this edge right here. So let's do that. And of course, before I can do anything, I got to move something because I leave stuff laying around. That needs to go under there. This needs to go over here. My son's trolling motor battery needs to get out of the way. Ay, ay, ay. All right. And then we can use the joiner. And we're going to need some hearing protection. Because this thing is loud. Deal. put a square mark on there. Old school Bridge City Tools square. Back when they made things with rosewood, now they make things out of aluminum, which is all right because it's still very precise, but still. Back in the day, back then, they made these cool tools with rosewood and brass, and they were guaranteed for life. I don't know if they're still guaranteed for life. I hope so. They're made in Portland, Oregon, which was also cool. Good old USA made, like that. Can't have everything made in America, but you can try to buy the most of your stuff from America, and that helps a lot. That helps the brothers and sisters in America do their thing. All right, we got a nice square cut there. Actually, I should have done it this way so that I can take it over to the miter saw over there. That square edge or straight edge we just jointed to the table, make the miter, and we're good to go. So I'm going to go get that set up. I'll be right back. Okay, I got the miter going in the wrong direction because I decided I would rather have this be the good side. So this is my jointed edge. So I want to cut it that way instead of this way. So using the bevel gauge, the bevel is actually 13 degrees. I don't know where I got 6 degrees from. It was just in my head, I guess. We'll use the bevel gauge to set it. There we go. Get us close. 13 degrees, and I'll just check it here. Like that. Yep, 13 degrees. Now I got a piece of 2x4 because I want to back this cut up. I don't want to just let that go flapping around out there. I don't have my fence on there right now. I'm just going to use an old piece of 2x4 I got laying around. That'll back up my cut, and I'll take it nice and slow right down through there, and we'll get that bevel on there. Saw doesn't want to go all the way through, of course. We'll just make that cut over here. Actually, don't even need to because we're going to cut that off when we bandsaw it. So let's go over here and get this thing glued on, all right? Hey, babe. We're doing a video. Come on in. Say hey to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Anna, my wife. She just got home. Just got home probably from the grocery store.
I did.
All right, so I'm going to cut this real quick and go help her unload the groceries. I'll be right back.
Sorry about that, y'all.
All right, let me turn that off. Okay, I'm back. Let me make sure I remember to turn this on. I did. Sometimes I'll start a video and be talking away, and then I realize I forgot to turn it on. Okay, so You know, you had to do the husbandly bring in the groceries. Even guitar builders have to do that. All right, so we got that angle cut, the perfect angle. We have our piece, the right thickness. We have everything we need. I'm just going to cut a little bit of that excess off the top there and around these edges, because we don't need all of that just to cause trouble. So I'm going to put a clamp on that right there. Ow. Man, I hate it when I do that. Bang my knee. Just to hold that there for a moment. Make sure we're in the right place. Everything is good. I can hold that just like that. The nut is still there. This is pushing down on the nut. I'll just knock off that excess right there and right here. Real quick over there on the bandsaw. No sense in dealing with a bunch of extra stuff we don't need to deal with, right? Okay. Just a little bit of extra like this. You know, we'll cut that off of there, that waste, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're ready to glue this head plate on. I'm going to put one hole in here and one pin just to keep it from slipping up and down. I know it won't slip side to side once I get it on there. It's pushed up against this nut. I'm going to take that whole thing over to the vise and clamp that bad boy in there, and boom, we're done. All right, so let's do that real quick. Get that hole in there. You guys have seen me do this before. If you've watched some of the other videos, maybe you haven't. But I use these little pins to help me stay lined up when I'm doing a glue up. And just to do a recap, I make the pins out of the same drill bits. I just sacrifice the drill bit. And these little things will snap right off, so it's not hard to do. Put that up there, put this here, tight up against that. Make sure again everything is good. We're going to hold that tight right there. And I put this little pinhole in that pin right there where the groove for the truss rod port will be. Just like that. And I just use one of these little pins that I make out of the drill bits. And I just drive that down in that hole right there when I get the glue on it, and it'll stay perfectly where I want it to be. It's not going to shift around. Then after the glue dries, I just pull that little pin out and put all these back where they go before you lose them. And always put the small bits back where they go, because if the drill falls over, it will snap your drill bit off. Ask me how I know that. Trusty drill bit box. We got glue, we got a pen. We don't have glue. I'm trying to do this fast instead of being real slow. These videos, I don't know how much your attention will hold. All right. That's clean. Everything is clean. Looks good. We know where we're going. We know what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and put this pin right in there. Give that a little tap. So it's already ready to help me line back up. Just got it sticking out just a little bit. I'm going to move this out of the way. Put a little bit of tape right there. Try to stay clean. Unless you got to clean up later. There you go. That can sit just like that. Perfect. Okay. I think we're good to go. Let me get a block to use for a clamping caul so I don't dent anything like the back side of this. Use that on the front. We're going to use this on the back because we have a volute and we don't want to crush it. So we have a V cutout in our clamping pawl so that that goes over top like that. You see that? And that way our clamping pawl doesn't get crushed. Perfect. All right, here we go. Let's do this. Let's get some glue on. Let's get this thing glued up. That should be more than enough. Okay, that's enough of that. Now we can put this right back where it goes. Drop right back in the little hole there. That's going to hold that right there for us. It's going to stay tied up against that nut. I'm even going to put a couple pieces of tape on it just to make sure it doesn't shift around any at all. I don't believe it will, but doesn't hurt to be safe. The old saying goes, better safe than sorry. One piece here. And one piece here, like that. I'm even going to put one more pin up in this area right up in here where I'm going to be cutting it off. No, maybe not. I don't think I need it. I don't think I need it. I think that's perfect, just like that. Put that there. Turn this over. Man, I didn't want to do that. Let's get this clamped up. All right, that's good. That's real good. I'm going to take this back off now because it's not going to move. Take this back off. Get it out of the way. And just put a couple little spring clamps here. Like that. I think that's really the only one I need. This one's tight. Now we'll do that one too. One there and one over here. And that'll just hold these two little areas that come up here down where the clamping caul isn't on those. And that looks good all the way down. Okay, we did it. And that was a pretty fast video, I think. By the time I get done editing it, it will be a pretty quick video, I think. All right, so we got that head plate on the neck. Bam, got it done. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Tell your friends, your family, all that good stuff, okay? Thanks again, man. You guys be good to each other out there. Get out there and see some local bands. Go watch them boys play, and girls. And thanks again. Peace. Worth Guitars. I decided to do that instead. That's much better. With guitars.